which tells you what its impact will be to the state or local governments. In this case, probably none, but like a budget bill, you can imagine it has a pretty detailed fiscal analysis. So that's where you can get the bill language. The status of the bill is the next most important thing, or maybe the most important if you want to testify on it. The way this page is laid out is the most recent activities listed first. So the most recent thing that happened in this bill is it was referred to the Committee on Community and Family Advancement. Prior to that, it was introduced on February 7th. So it's in committee. That's good. That means there may still be an opportunity to testify. It also tells you kind of who your call to action is. So if I want to talk to somebody about this bill, I know it's still in the House and it's in this committee, Community and Family Advancement. At any point, you can call your House member, let Jim Hughes know, I'm concerned about this bill. I think it sends an unwelcoming message about Ohio. You can go back now to our summary page. It actually gives you a link right to that House Community and Family Advancement Committee. Maybe you can take a look, see if your member's on that committee. But even if they're not, I don't see them. Yeah. So even if your member isn't on that committee, you can find out who the chair of that committee is, and that chair has a lot of power over influencing whether or not that bill moves. So if you would like to find out when there are hearings scheduled on the bill, you could, again, everything's clickable, go through to Mr. Ginter's page. Here's his phone number, you can email him. The most helpful thing I can recommend that you do, and it's in the guide, is if you really care about a bill and you want to follow it all the way through the process, find out what committee it's been introduced into. So if it's in Community and Family Advancement, and you really want to know as soon as they schedule hearings on these bills, call Chairman Ginter's office or email Chairman Ginter's office and say, please put me on the committee notice list or the committee notification email list. They send out an email once a week, usually on a Thursday, maybe Friday, to notice any committee meetings that they will be having the following week. I think I have a sample. This isn't a great example, but this is a committee hearing notice. So this is one that got emailed out today, and it's telling us the state budget is in the Senate Finance Committee. Ooh, go away. And this is just a schedule of all their hearings that are coming up. So next Tuesday, they've got a hearing on the bill. It tells you a little bit about what bills are going to be heard, what phase they are in the process. So if this was a normal bill, not a budget, which takes weeks and weeks and weeks, it would probably tell you whether they're taking sponsor, proponent, or opponent testimony. And that's what you need to know if you want to go in and testify, or maybe you just want to go sit in the committee and hear what they say. It's a good heads up to know if they're going to be hearing from people that are pro the bill or against the bill. So that's what you would contact the chair's office for. But let's go back to that committee page, because there's other really useful things on the committee page. You can see that every single hearing this committee has held since the beginning of the General Assembly has its date listed here. And next to each one, there's a little toggle. So we can open it up and look at this committee hearing that was held yesterday. You can see they heard all these different bills. House Bill 50, House Bill 64. I can't actually read over here, 126. And you can see this bill right here, House Bill 64, it looks like they were all interested parties. This bill had proponents. But if you're kind of trying to research a bill to find out, I don't know, do I care about this? Is this bad? This is a great place to come and look, because you can come and see, well, who's against this bill? Who's for it? Let's see if we can find one that has some opponents. This committee usually does a lot of legislation that's like anti-poverty. Oh, so here we go, House Bill 51. I think this is the bill that requires you to get a special ID card to use SNAP benefits or food stamps. So you can see the people that are against it. The food banks are opposed to this bill. The Legal Aid Society in Columbus, which does a lot of work for the poor. So that's really helpful, and if you want to, you can even download a copy of their testimony and see what they said. So these are great resources. The committee page is just a wealth of resources for people. If you want to do some hardcore diving into a particular bill and be the expert in the room about it, maybe each of you could take one bill that you would kind of be in charge of watching through the process. You can get a lot of information just by finding out who's been testifying on it, what did they say, and then, you know, get on that committee notice list to find out when the next hearing is, and maybe you want to go in and testify. Are there any bills right now pending in the legislature anybody's tracking that we want to look up?
Once you look at the Convention of States, since it's the minor issue of changing the Constitution.
That is an interesting one. Do you know the bill number?
No.
So that's the other piece of advice. If you don't know the bill number, because let's see, if we go back to the House homepage, they have the same, oh, they don't have the legislation searcher on the homepage. There's a lot of stuff under these menus, so you can get to the legislation from here. If you don't know a bill number, you can search it by sponsor. And you can see, you can just take the sponsor and then the bill. So like if you're like, well, I think Bob Hackett has a bill that I care about, might be his bill, then you can hit submit and it'll just bring up all of the bills that he's sponsored. On that one, I know where to look for it, so I'll pull it up. But if you don't know a bill number, like say you just read about it in the dispatch, you know, there's a new concealed carry bill that basically makes us a stand your ground state. Call your rep, call Hughes's office, and say, hey, I read this story about this stand your ground bill. Can you tell me what the bill number is on that? They'll look it up for you. They'll figure it out. Because the search tools on here are not great. That's the reason I recommend just searching by bill number. The searching by subject is, it's hit or miss. We can try, but I happen to know that bill is in the House Federalism Committee. Let's see, can you see it? Find it? Sorry. Super blurry over here. So I think it was getting hearings about a month ago, so let's look. That's not it. It's going to be a resolution. There we go. House Concurrent Resolution 4. But this is sponsor testimony. Maybe this is it. I'm trying to remember what the number of it was, but do you know the bill number? It's either an HCR or it's an HCR. Because it's a resolution, it's not binding. It's not creating new law at the state level. It's calling on Congress to hold a convention. So let's see. Well, we'll just look at both and see which one it is. HJR2. Application to the Congress of the United States for a Convention of the States. That's our one. Okay. So HJR2, you can see from this page who's come in to testify for it, who's testified against it. Look at some of the other dates and see. I think it's had 3 or 4 hearings. So here's another one. Look at all these opponents. Yeah, I got a lot of opponent testimony from a wide range of people. Some of them are kind of unexpected. Ohio citizens defending the Constitution. I mean, I don't even know who these groups are, but I've looked at some of these, the submitted testimony. It's pretty intense. People are really interested in this issue. So, but let's go back to our search. Now we know what it was called. It was HJR2, is that right? Just get me back to the main page. Do this. All right. 2. There we go. Limit the power of the federal government and impose federal term limits, HJR2. So here's what we can see. Its status right now is it's still probably sitting in that committee. It has not gone to the floor. Here's the sponsors. You can see if there's a bill analysis of this bill. There's the text of the legislation. And if there had been a vote on it, so if it actually gone out of the committee, what the committee does is called report out. If they voted favorably to move the bill along to the full House, you would actually see some votes here It would show the votes in the committee, how those votes went down. But this one hasn't had one. And then once a bill goes to the floor, you can come here and look, and it'll have the record of all the votes. So if you're interested in how your member voted, for example, let's look up House Bill 49. That's a state budget. Sometimes. All right, here's the budget. So we can look at the votes on the budget. And you'll see that committee reported it out on a 23 to 9 vote. So we have 23 yeses, 9 noes. They're actually a little bit bipartisan. You had 1 no vote from the Republicans. You got a couple of Democrats voting yes. And then it went to the floor and it was 58-37. So you can find out, kind of hold accountable your member and see how they voted on any piece of legislation.
Can I ask you a question? You had talked about that Encore service that costs $700 a month.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know if the library subscribes to that?
I don't know, but that's a great idea.
They do a lot, they have a lot of things they do subscribe to that we can get access to as members.
It's worth asking them.
Okay.
Oh, I'm not going to be logged in, but yeah, she's going to go into bill tracking. And the great thing about Gomor is they have a staff person, they have a reporter that goes to every single committee hearing. So if you missed a committee hearing, they don't broadcast most of them. In the House, they only broadcast the House Finance Committee, which is the one that hears the budget. The Senate is experimenting this year with 4 of its standing committees are now broadcasting their sessions. But if it's a committee that wasn't broadcast, to find out what happened, I mean, what I would say is if you don't have Gomor, the best thing you can do is go pull up that committee page and see all that testimony that was submitted. Because if you testify in committee, they'll post your testimony online for anybody to see it. So it's probably the next best thing. It used to be I really relied on Gomor because they had a person in the room in every single committee that would write up what happened in the committee. The perspective you get from there that you won't get from just reading the testimony is that back and forth, like this member asked this question and push back, and you don't get that. But otherwise, I think just the fact that they're putting testimony up online now is really helpful. And again, I'll go back to saying testifying committee is a great opportunity. It's a way to tell your story and put a perspective out there that they wouldn't otherwise be hearing. But again, there's an alternative to testifying in person. If you can't make it that day, these committee hearings are usually during the day when people are working, submit written testimony to the committee chair. They will make it available to all the members. They will put it online on the website. So as long as you're paying attention to when that bill is up for a hearing, that's when you want to submit it. I mean, if you just randomly submit testimony on a bill that's not being heard right now, I don't really know if it would ever show up on the website. They really usually they list it under the date of that hearing. So.
Just another point, if you're going to testify, especially something like a budget, be ready to condense what you're going to say in 3 minutes, because otherwise they'd be there for weeks. So I think testimony today in the Senate, Budget, Human Services Committee was limited to 3 minutes.
I'm really excited that they're doing that because if you ever sat through a committee hearing, I mean, I took some people to a House budget hearing about a month ago, and they didn't limit the time. So it's up to the chair if they're going to limit your time or not. So sometimes you might prepare 10 pages of testimony, you get there and they say you have 3 minutes. You really have to hit your main points. And it may not seem fair, but if you sit there ever when there's 55 people scheduled to testify and you're letting them go 20 and 30 minutes, it is outrageous. And then they're letting, this particular hearing I went to, they were letting like all of the lobbyists for the vapor industry, testify about like they wanted to tax vapor products. But these lobbyists are paid to be there, and all these regular citizens that had driven from all around the state to talk about their library funding or their school funding or something had to sit there through 45 minutes of lobbyists. I was really angry. All my people gave up. They didn't even wait around because they were there for like 6 hours and still hadn't gotten a chance to testify. That's really unusual. I mean, it's not often that a committee will go that long.
I told my friends this week I had a cynical streak, but does testimony make a difference?
It can. Just this session, you guys maybe have followed, there was a proposal from the Kasich administration to shut down the Bureau of Children with Medical Handicaps program, which pays for people with really severe medical issues like cystic fibrosis. So you have to meet certain income restrictions to be eligible, but then the state helps with your medical treatments, your child's medical treatments. And they wanted to shut down that program and put everybody in the Medicaid system instead. There's probably good arguments why, but parents came in and testified on that committee, and in fact the committee chair stopped them partway through, maybe the third or fourth person to testify said, "Stop, I don't want anybody else to have to testify, we're going to fix this. You know, save your stories, go home." Because some of them had brought their children in with them, they were waiting around. So that was a case where I think when members heard enough from parents, they just said, "We're not going to do this." Sometimes it might give them a different perspective on an issue that they maybe hadn't considered, and you could, you know, especially if you're very specific and say, "Here's how you could amend this bill to make it less bad or slightly better." That's a perspective that testimony can be really helpful for, because they just don't know how these things influence people in different situations. But yeah, I think it's more effective if you get more than one person coming in, or, you know, or if you're really directly impacted by it, as opposed to, you know, maybe somebody like me, which is just like, "Hey, this is a really bad policy." I don't know how much difference that makes. But if it was going to really impact your life and you could give a specific, yeah. Yeah, and that's why it's so helpful. That's why it's like frustrating, because they pass bills all the time that affect real people, but the people that they affect don't know that they're even talking about these bills. It's way too late by the time they ever hear about it. So, you know, we want to try to make that connection a little bit sooner and get those people in. But, you know, I'm glad that they are accepting written testimony these days. I'm glad they're posting online, making it a little bit easier. But, yeah. Cool. Well, thanks. Sorry about the messed up slides. But, so the handout that was passed out, it refers to the larger guide. The guide's about 15 or about 25 pages. I've got a few copies over here if people want to take a hard copy home, but it is available online. There's the website on the bottom that tells you where to go and download it. So if you want to look up more detail. And there's, at the end of the guide, there's all those websites that I went to, so they, you know, has the links. So if you want to know where to go and look up all this stuff, it's in there.
Thank you, this was awesome.
Thank you very much.
I had a follow-up. Is there any place that really summarizes what is happening in the Ohio legislature?
No. No, not really. I mean, nobody's getting, aside from those two paid services that I mentioned, Hannah News Service and Gunmore News Service, there's nobody that's watching every single bill. You know, there's organizations like mine that try to keep an eye on it and maybe flag, you know, big issues. What I would recommend is like, because not everybody wants to do all this work to, you know, go and personally research every single bill and be responsible for watching it through the process. What I would say is, in that case, if you care about like, you know, higher education issues, then the AAUW, get on their list. You know, find that state level advocacy organization that works on those issues and just make sure you're getting their emails or you're getting their social media updates. So it might be Planned Parenthood, it might be the OEA if you're interested in public schools. Make sure that that's their job. But yeah, there's no version of the OEA for the entire legislature. Really, people have to silo because we're a 5-person shop and we just can't watch everything.
Subject by subject.
Yeah, so if you're really interested in guns, then, you know, the Ohio Alliance Against Gun Violence, you know, there's a group that's kind of watching all the issues, but you have to sort of find out who it is, and I'm happy to help people track down who that group might be. I'll put my cards up front so people keep them. Great. Thanks.
Thank you, Tara. You know, it's getting late. We need to vacate soon, but I just want to say thanks for coming. Thanks to Tara for her presentation, and hope to see you next month. Again, it's June 22nd, and we're talking about social media with Alex Cass. And I'll probably see a lot of you out passing petitions for fair districts in the meantime. So again, good night and thanks.